Second, I'd like to take a moment and step back and share a quick word on the events of this weekend, the good and the bad alike. On one hand, this weekend we witnessed one of the largest peaceful demonstrations in American history. Nearly 5 million Americans took to the streets and made their voices heard against the rise of authoritarianism on our shores.
Hello, fellow patriots. Welcome back to the Constitution Corner. If you value the principles that our great nation was built upon, freedom, justice, and the rule of law, then you're in the right place. Before we dive into today's discussion, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue to bring you content that defends our Constitution and the values we hold dear.
I was proud to be one of them. We gathered in the streets, we gathered in front of state capitals, we gathered on beaches and in national parks and in cities and towns, big and small alike. For the most part, the demonstrations were peaceful. In some cities, there were acts of unlawful disruption, and those who broke the law should be held accountable. I've always been clear that the right to free speech is fundamental but must be exercised peacefully. But again, for the most part, the millions who marched this weekend did so peacefully. In many cities, there wasn't a single incidence of law-breaking. In fact, the demonstrations were much more than just simply peaceful. They're inspiring. After all the attacks we have seen this year against our institutions and our values, it is so comforting to know that the roots of democracy run deep in this country. And even though we may disagree fiercely, the marches remind us we can stand up for our country and our democracy while still keeping the peace. What happened in Minnesota, however, should be a warning. Political violence is not just on the rise in America, it's becoming all too normal. And it falls on all of us to stop it. When lawmakers are shot in their own home, when a governor's mansion is set ablaze, when the spouse of the Speaker of the House is nearly beat to death, when a violent mob storms the U.S. Capitol, and when a gunman tries to assassinate the President of the United States, it is not enough to just condemn these acts and move on. We need to recognize something needs to change. Condemning violence is only the first step, necessary, but a first step. We must all work together to address violence's root causes. We must take a serious look at the toxic forces that are radicalizing too many Americans into embracing violence. Most of all, when violence strikes, the answer is for us to come together regardless of party. That's especially important for U.S. senators. Sadly, we didn't see that this weekend. I wish I didn't have to say this, but I was deeply disappointed and sickened to see a member of this chamber use the tragedy in Minnesota to take cheap political shots at the other side on social media and risk escalating a perilous moment. When the senior senator from Utah posted what the senior senator from Utah posted after the shooting was reckless and beneath the dignity of his office. For a senator to fan the flames of division with falsities while the killer was still on the loose is deeply irresponsible. He should take down his post immediately and apologize to the families of the victims. And this isn't even about politics. This is about simple human decency. Our divisions run deep, but we are still all Americans. We may disagree sometimes, many times, maybe most of the time, but we're still human beings. The victims this weekend, no matter what party they belong to, still leave behind kids who now will never speak to their parents ever again. So I say to my colleagues, now is the time to speak with moral clarity. Every single one of us must condemn political violence, no matter where it comes from, and to work together to eradicate its root causes. We cannot be silent, because silence only serves to enable more violence. And in the meantime, I will continue to work with Leader Thune, with the Capitol Police, the Sergeant-at-Arms, and all my colleagues to ensure the safety of every senator and our staffs. This is a dark moment for America, but I believe firmly in my bones we will endure.
Today we're addressing a deeply troubling event that unfolded in Minnesota, a state that, until recently, I would have considered a bastion of American values. On June 14, 2025, 2 Minnesota state legislators were targeted in their homes. State Senator John Hoffman and his wife were shot but survived, while former House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband tragically lost their lives. The suspect, Vance Luther Bolter, allegedly impersonated a police officer to gain access to these homes, and authorities later discovered a hit list in his vehicle containing about 70 individuals, including politicians and abortion rights advocates. This incident is not an isolated event. It's part of a disturbing trend of political violence that has been escalating across the nation. From the storming of the U.S. Capitol to the shooting of lawmakers in their own homes, it's clear that political discourse has taken a violent turn. And while some on the left may be quick to point fingers, we must all acknowledge that political violence is unacceptable, regardless of the perpetrator's ideology. What I find particularly egregious is the reaction from certain members of the Senate. Instead of uniting in the face of this tragedy, some have chosen to exploit it for political gain. One senator tweeted a picture of the Minnesota shooter and wrote, "This is what happens when Marxists don't get their way." Another referred to the incident as "Nightmare on Wall Street," attempting to blame Minnesota Governor Tim Walz for the shooting. This rhetoric is not only reckless but also dangerous. It fans the flames of division and undermines the very fabric of our democracy. As conservatives, we understand the importance of free speech. It's enshrined in our Constitution and is a cornerstone of our democracy. However, free speech does not give anyone the right to incite violence or spread hatred. We must be vigilant in ensuring that our words and actions uphold the dignity of our nation and the safety of our fellow citizens. In times of crisis, it's essential that we come together as Americans. The victims of this attack, regardless of their political affiliation, are fellow citizens who have been harmed. We must condemn the actions of the perpetrator and work towards healing the divisions that have led to such violence. This is not a time for partisan bickering but for national unity and reflection. In conclusion, the events in Minnesota serve as a stark reminder of the dangers of political extremism and the importance of maintaining civil discourse. As patriots, it's our duty to defend the Constitution, uphold the rule of law, and ensure that our nation remains a beacon of freedom and justice for all. Thank you for joining me today. If you found this discussion valuable, please like this video and subscribe to the Constitution Corner. Together, we can continue to defend the principles that make America great. We are the Constitution Corner, where Americans' root guides its future. Until next time, stand strong, speak truth, and may God bless the United States of America.